What is the darkest, scariest, most terrible place in the entire Bible? Hi, everyone. Welcome to Language of Life for Little Learners. This is your favorite Bible nerd, R.A. Sweeney. Today, I want to talk about a word that we often gloss over in the early, in Genesis chapter 1, and it's a little hard to translate into English. And so as we're reading through, we see that darkness is over the surface of the deep, I feel like is what I typically see, which, I hate that translation. A lot of times it gets translated abyss. And so there's a few different ways that it gets translated. But what that thing that darkness is over is the Hebrew word tehome. And so if you guys want to say it with me, I'll say it slow first, then we can say it together. It is Tehome. So just like the home where you live with a te on the beginning. So say it with me, Tehome. And like I said, it's hard to say Tehome means exactly, this certain thing that we tend to think of. Because we don't really have this notion in our culture. So the idea is that in like the very deepest depths of the oceans, essentially, the salt water, because salt water isn't life-giving water. It is water that'll kill you. And so in the deepest, darkest place of the salt water is the place where the sea dragons live. And so I realize I'm probably getting some people thinking like, what sea dragons are you talking about? We'll get there. There are sea dragons all over in the Bible, and it's really cool. And whether or not the Bible's saying they're real or not, it's at least taking that Middle Eastern idea of sea dragons, of chaos that live in the deeps, and that's where it's at least coming from. So Tehome is the place where the chaos monsters of the deep, these like water dragons, live. It's the place that like evil is emanating from and chaos. And so when it says darkness is over the surface of Tehome, darkness is like spewing out of this dark depth of chaos. And it's blanketing all the earth in this dark, chaotic water. And so to me, the way I like to think of Tehome is, honestly, I feel like the kind of cartoonish picture of hell where you've got like this like subterranean, like underground, like fiery place, and the devil is like the ruler of it. And he's like orchestrating how he's going to corrupt the world from his like underground fiery like headquarters. Honestly isn't too far from the idea of Tehome. Now, it differs that it's not, it's not a place that humans get sent to as a punishment or anything like that, but it's just this, essentially it's the opposite of the Garden of Eden. It's this place that's deep down in the waters that chaos and death are just like pouring out of and trying to corrupt and destroy the world. And like I said, it's where the sea dragons rule out of and stuff like that. And then I mentioned that sometimes it gets translated as abyss, which is just the Greek word for what they call Tehome. In Greek, the word abyss means the depthless place, so the place without depth. Which reminds me of, we were just reading The Lord of the Rings with my kids, and there's the bridge that they go over in the dwarven tunnels, and it says that it's over a bottomless chasm. And my kids were like, well, how could it not have a bottom? And I was like, the point isn't that it has no bottom, but it's just like, it's so far down that no one could ever explore or measure the depths. And that's really what's going on here. Like, it's not a place that has no depth. Like, it's all the way down there. I'd be like saying, like, I ran so far, I ran clear off the face of the earth. Like, clearly that can't happen, but it's signifying, like, it's so far that it becomes exaggerative to even say what's going on. So you can call it the abyss. I think that's a fair translation based off of the Greek. I don't even translate it in my own discussions on it. I just call it Tehome because that's what it is in Hebrew, and there's not really a good English word to translate that. But anyway, so our word for today is Tehome. Tehome is the place that chaos rules and erupts chaos out into the world to try to bring everything in the world, all of God's good creation, into a place of chaos. So it's like the corrupting enemy source of power that is trying to take goodness and make it into chaos and death. So that's our word for this week. The word is Tehome. If you want to say it with me one more time, Tehome is kind of the ruling place of chaos in creation. Hope that's a blessing. Thanks for tuning in to Language of Life for Little Learners. If this show is a blessing, please feel free to share it with others so that we can help other people to learn little bits of Hebrew and Greek. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.